Welcome to the Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, this is Under the Silver Lake. Welcome to the Blast Zone.
Welcome to the Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I am Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like Under the Silver Lake, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
But I've heard the advice that when you have big plans or goals, you shouldn't talk about them too much. You should just do them, because talking gives your brain a form of the reward prematurely and kind of takes away your energy and drive. And I never really believed that before, but right now I've started to sense how that is true. So I'm not trying to be cryptic and full of secrets like this week's movie is, but I will say that I'm feeling energized and hopeful about my goals. So I'm going to try to say less and hopefully do more.
Say less, King.
Thank you.
But also say more to me off mic. Yeah. I've never heard that before, but I guess it makes sense.
I get it now from like a dopamine hit perspective that you can just give yourself the achievement by telling everybody what you're going to do. And then all of a sudden you don't have that hunger.
Isn't that what like the wine moms call manifesting?
Yeah, it's in tension with the idea of manifesting because, where do you put that out into the universe? You just got to be careful how much you're putting out. I don't know. I'm no expert on the secret.
It wouldn't be a secret if you were. I'm constantly talking about the things I want to do and achieve and rarely achieving or doing any of them. So
it's very relatable.
This is good advice for me to take in as well. Although I did start a big milestone. I finally started my nacho reviews on social media.
Yes, congrats.
Thank you. Although I did screw up the audio on the first one. It's only in mono, not in stereo.
That's a pretty minor screw up. I watched it. I loved it. And that was an example to me because we had talked about that idea, but then when you actually did it, you weren't talking me through it in the weeks leading up to it. You just got it done. So congratulations. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking because I wanted to stockpile a decent amount of content because the last thing you want to do is start a weekly series and then 8 weeks into it, you're like, oh, fuck, I gotta go eat some nachos because I have no content.
Or 2 weeks into it even, it could happen.
It could. So I do have about 20 weeks worth of content backed up.
Wow.
But like, it was so tempting to just keep like, well, if I have 30 weeks of content backed up, then I'm really safe and I don't have to worry about it. But it's always easy to kick the can down the road and keep delaying something. But I decided to just go for it. So if you guys follow me on my private, not my private, but my personal social media, not the Blast Zone social media, and not on Twitter, because that's basically a dead website at this point.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, I'm doing them. So check them out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, John is the certified nacho expert of the tri-state area. I'm not sure how far your domain extends, but
I've been I'm Johnny Cash of nachos. I've been everywhere, man. We've been to Iowa for nachos, Denver, South Carolina. I've been all over.
Very impressive. I look forward to hearing about all of these nachos.
And so you shall. But before we get into this week's movie, which I'm very excited to talk to you about, did you happen to watch anything else you wanted to share with the listeners?
I did. I watched a movie called Point Blank. It's a 1967 movie. It's directed by John Boorman, who later became famous for Deliverance. That's probably the biggest thing that he did.
Oh, yeah.
It stars Lee Marvin and Angie Dickinson, some old names that I know about, but I don't usually watch. And the reason I watched this is because, first of all, I heard someone say it's an essential part of the LA crime movie canon, which is something I like. And secondly, I thought it might make a nice companion piece to Under the Silver Lake because it's set in LA. It's got this roughly noirish type of vibe. And most importantly, as I found out, this movie's trippy as hell. It stars famously hard-boiled Lee Marvin, and he's playing a hard-boiled criminal. He gets double-crossed by his partner and goes on a rampage of revenge through a shadowy underworld organization. But it's not just basic Lee Marvin tough guy shit, especially the opening third of the movie. The images are all dreamlike. The narrative is super fractured. It's flashing back and forth. It echoes the state of mind of the main character, who's at first in a haze from his near death by gunshot wounds, and then he's in a haze of alcohol and heartbreak, and weird shit happens, and you're not sure if that was real or when things happened. Really trippy. I didn't love the movie overall. It's not like the best LA crime movie, but I did have fun with it, and I really appreciated all the interesting choices that it made. And it's kind of like today's movie, Point Blank, effectively pulls you into its weird, unsettling mood.
This does sound like a movie I definitely want to check out, but I decided to look up the director while you were speaking. Mm-hmm. First of all, it is Sir John Boorman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The man is a knight. Second of all, he also directed Excalibur, which we kind of touched on a little bit in our last episode, Ladyhawke.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
As a contemporary of Ladyhawke. And he's 93 and still kicking.
Oh, that's neat.
Not only is he still kicking, he's got a movie in development. He's not directing it, granted, but he did write it and he's producing it called The Honey Wars.
Wow.
As of October 2024, it's still happening. And he directed a movie in 2014, Queen and Country, which was a movie I remember hearing about. So he's not gone quietly into that good night. He's working until his final days.
That's awesome. Good for you, Sir John Boorman.
So you watched a very old movie, and I watched a very new movie.
Ooh.
Which I feel like this keeps happening to us. You're going way back in time, and I'm sticking with the new releases. But I checked out a little A24 movie called The Drama.
Okay.
Starring two of our biggest movie stars right now, Robert Pattinson and Zendaya,
Nice.
and directed by Christopher Borgli, who I brought his previous movie, Dream Scenario, for show and tell, which I liked very much. This is a much more straightforward story, no supernatural elements as far as I could tell.
Okay.
I think some people went into it expecting a rom-com, and some people went into it expecting a twisty-turny thriller. And I think everybody kind of left confused and disappointed because it really is just a romance, drama, black comedy. But when you think of a romantic comedy, there's a certain tone attached to it that this movie is not going for at all. This is a fucked up, dark, miserable experience for our characters. And just seeing two of the most charismatic, likable people in Hollywood being put through the ringer to this degree was stressful, but also fun. They both really give it their all. Some really interesting directing and editing in this movie, which to say more would give up the ghost, so to speak.
Okay.
So I will keep that to myself. It was a hit. You won't hear us talking about it on this podcast. Surprised to find out, though, that Ian, you really didn't know much about this, huh?
No, I saw some tweets go by about our Pat, about Zendaya. So I knew the movie existed, but really didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it was Borgli, you got me to watch that last one.
Dream Scenario,
which was a cool sci-fi idea that got upsetting in weird ways. And so I'm like, this director is weird. And now I'm kind of primed for exploring the drama.
To give a very brief and very vague plot synopsis, Zendaya and Robert Pattinson are due to get married, but very shortly before the wedding, there is conflict.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Say no more. Yeah, that's intriguing.
If you need more reason to watch it, it was produced by Ari Aster. So that should give you an idea of what kind of themes you're going to be dealing with here.
A cabal of interesting filmmakers.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of a cabal, that's a good segue for this week's movie, Under the Silver Lake. We have an interesting relationship to this movie. Dare I say, we'd already been friends for many years, but we kind of bonded over this movie. I watched it and I was like, wow, this seems very much up Ian's alley. It's hyper specific to local Los Angeles landmarks that I know are in his area, but also just really good neo-noir, really good performances across the board. Weird as fuck. And then me and you just, I checked, it was January of 2025. When you watched it, we just bounced crazy theories and ideas off each other for like weeks, it seemed. And then we did it again when we started watching it for this podcast.
Yeah, this movie is definitely bait for us in general. I'm very grateful to you for opening my eyes to it a year ago or so. I did love it for all those reasons you talked about, the noir style, the LA setting. And it was really interesting to come back to it because even as much as we picked it apart then, and there's a lot of people on the internet doing that, so you get to become part of this community that does that, I was still struck by the emotional impact of the movie and that first watching. Coming back to it now, where sort of the veil was lifted, that always happens to me with all movies, but especially movies that have attention or horror elements in them. I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of confused when I'm watching it. And when that's lifted and I come back in a comfortable space to watch it and just soak in everything it's doing, I enjoyed the weirdness of this movie just that much more now.
Yeah, and we have to do a little bit of self-censorship on this episode or it'll be 7 hours long because every act of this movie has multiple threads we could pull on for as long as our heart's desire and multiple alleyways to peek down. And all you got to do is go onto YouTube, type in Under the Silver Lake, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There are a myriad of videos from all types of creators. Some of them are several hours long. And I watched a handful of them. I know you did as well. What struck me the most is that no two of them are really alike. Everyone seems to take something different away from this movie.
Yeah, there's so many different interpretations, and we might think some of them are less valid than others, but it's certainly open to stretching it all different kind of ways. People go crazy about it, and that's just YouTube. There's a whole subreddit that's just full of stuff. We only have time to maybe talk about the particular theories that we favor, and even then, if we tried to talk about all of them, this would be a 3-hour episode. So yeah, we're kind of going in hopeful to ask the questions, open the doors, and let the listeners explore them further, just so we can get through this movie.
Yeah, almost more than any other movie we've ever covered, I would encourage people to maybe take a break from the episode and try to watch it and then come back to it, because we always try to give you a baseline of information so you can know what we're talking about. But like, this movie will certainly reward you to actually have seen what we're describing, and so you can understand the theories we're going to be volleying about.
We're going to spoil the plot of the movie, which obviously we always do in a movie that contains a lot of mystery. You only get one chance to go in not knowing what happens, but we're going to spoil what's not there too. We're going to give you the plot and a bunch of theories about the plot, and it's really fun to discover. But the thing is, even even if you listen to us first and you go watch it, you will form your own theories and you'll have plenty of other stuff to explore. Don't feel like you can ever get to the bottom of this movie.
Yeah, maybe don't go watch it, because then I feel like we're going to get a bunch of emails and tweets like, you guys are idiots. It's not what it's about at all. That's not what happened. It's all about this. I will say the one type of deep dive on this movie that I do not think has any value is, I'm not sure what category to put this under, but I came across a few that were like, this movie got dumped by A24 because it was trying to tell the truth about the world. And I was like, no. This movie got dumped by A24 because it's a 2-hour, 20-minute neo-noir with no bankable stars and pretty divided opinion among critics and test audiences.
I also don't give those theories a lot of credibility, but I get why you go down that road, because the movie's talking about a hidden underbelly of powerful people in LA and Hollywood. And the movie has a weird journey where it didn't just fail on its own merits at the box office like a lot of the movies we talk about. The movie kind of got snuffed out before it had a chance to succeed. So is that a good segue into you telling us the story of the production?
I literally just pulled it up, so we were thinking the same thing. Let's get into it.
All right.
David Robert Mitchell burst onto the mainstream with his 2014 psychological horror masterpiece, It Follows, which wowed critics and enthralled audiences, earning over $20 million on its $1 million budget and announcing a new heavyweight talent to Hollywood.
Yeah, that big scary guy in the hallway.
But his next movie nearly undid it all. Mitchell was confirmed to be writing and directing his follow-up to It Follows.
It Follows Up.
In May 2016, with Andrew Garfield and Dakota Johnson set to star in the neo-noir comedy conspiracy thriller Under the Silver Lake. In October 2016, it was announced that Johnson had dropped out of the project, with Riley Keough joining. Topher Grace was also announced to have a role in the film, and principal photography began later that same month, with filming taking place primarily throughout the eastern Los Angeles neighborhoods of Silver Lake, Echo Park, and Los Feliz. The reported production budget was $8 million, a major step up from Mitchell's previous movies, but still a reasonable amount given that Spider-Man himself was playing the lead.
Spider-Man? No way, Holmes. That's amazing.
While the exact production dates are unknown, it was reportedly a long and disjointed shoot that stretched well into 2017, and Under the Silver Lake would go on to have an extremely divisive and polarizing debut in May of 2018 at the Cannes Film Festival. Whether A24 got cold feet due to the mixed reception or wanted Mitchell to rework the movie, the original release date of June 22nd, 2018 was pushed back to December 7th, 2018. It was then pushed back again to April 19th, 2019 for a very limited US release of a whopping 2 movie theaters, and the film hit video on demand streaming only 3 days later. The film made roughly 98% of its worldwide gross internationally, where it earned just over $2 million. Critics and audiences were sharply divided, with both the critics and audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes sitting at exactly 58%.
58.58. It's a hidden message revealing Andrew Garfield's actual secret height.
Positive reviews praise the film as imaginative, complex, and beautifully shot, while negative reviews often use the terms like self-indulgent, confusing, and jerking off the air motion. But time and the ability to rewatch the movie has changed its perception over the years, building a cult following that is utterly engrossed in the detailed codes and symbols Mitchell purposefully placed throughout. As for Mitchell, he went quiet. Rumors abounded about director jail due to the massive financial flop of Under the Silver Lake. But in 2023, it was announced that Mitchell would be reuniting with the star of It Follows for a sequel, and whispers circulated that this was his penance to get back in Hollywood's good graces. But then later in 2023, it was revealed that Mitchell had already been working on a science fiction film with Oscar Isaac and Anne Hathaway, later revealed to be titled The End of Oak Street. More recently, Isaac has been replaced with Ewan McGregor, but as the kids are fond of saying, we're so back.
That's great news, because obviously we are now pretty big fans.
He's 2 for 2 for me. Yeah, 2 of my favorite movies of the 2010s, honestly.
It's weird when you describe this. It was released in 2 theaters, which obviously looks like just a technicality, so maybe it could be eligible for some awards as a theatrical movie, and then it was just basically a direct-to-streaming release. A year later, that would become kind of commonplace, right? This was like a 2019 movie going direct-to-streaming, and it was like, oh, that's a little too early before you could kind of blend in if you were a director that got shuttled out of theaters when theaters stopped happening. It's great that he wasn't really put in director jail. He's really actually seems to be thriving, and there was just a little pause while he worked on things. But I don't know. We're talking about A24 here, right? They're not making blockbusters. This is firmly in their wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
Indie, artsy, challenging little movies. I do wonder, why didn't it come out? And did it have something to do with The Owl's Kiss?
Ian, going down the first of all, I would gather the majority of our listeners have no idea what The Owl's Kiss is at this point in the episode. And second of all, please don't go down the rabbit hole too far. I'm worried about it. You're already worrying me, and we have not even started to get into the plot. But what struck me the most when I was doing the monologue is the identical critics and audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, which is extremely rare. It's very common where you have a movie like the Super Mario Galaxy movie that just came out, right? It's got bad reviews from critics, but audiences like it because the people that go to see that kind of movie go in expecting something fun and maybe not too heavy. And then when you see the flip side of it, where critics love a movie and audiences maybe aren't as warm to it, is when it tends to be a challenging, complicated movie, which I think Under the Silver Lake would certainly qualify as. Like, for example, The Master from Paul Thomas Anderson, a movie I'm very fond of, but it doesn't really have a traditional narrative structure. Critics loved it. Audiences gave it a 62%, which is pretty low. Audiences tend to like the movies they pay money to go see. Critics have to see movies as their job, so it's a whole different experience.
Right.
But this movie is firmly the exact same number for both, is just something I can't remember having seen unless it was like 100, where it's just a movie everyone loved.
Yeah. So I think the question in that is like, why didn't critics think more of it? Because I get why the audience didn't. It frustrates some of your expectations, and maybe did the same thing to critics, right? It presents as a neo-noir with the outlines of some really familiar tropes. A down on his luck guy, a mysterious and alluring woman.
I think you call her a dame because it's a noir.
Oh, yeah. So this dame steps into his life and then promptly disappears mysteriously, and he gets obsessed with trying to find her. So he's theoretically doing something positive. And then there's that element, too, of exposing a bigger conspiracy of more and more powerful things that eventually end with a down ending, a cynical view of the world that you can't beat the system. All that's familiar. And if you want this movie to be that, it looks like that until it's not. And I struggle with it, too, until I came up with like my idea of what's the point of making this movie. Because what's the point of making a mystery where you give some answers, but they ring hollow? They're not totally coherent. And I think the point of the movie is to seduce you into wanting to solve the mystery, and specifically like wanting to follow all the clues and decode all the puzzles, just like the main character. And then you realize the main character is bad by the end.
And insane.
Yes. And a lot of what you might have seen is not really real. And you question yourself. I was like, why did Mitchell do this movie? And that now holds together for me as to why he told this story. It's not about exposing the conspiracies in Hollywood and how starlets are abused and manipulated. There's elements of truth to a lot of the stuff that it sets up. It's really about questioning male archetypes, of which the protagonist is one, and you think he's sort of a positive one, and by the end, you don't believe that.
Yeah, a bit of the discourse around this movie, which I guess happened more recently. The movie's 7 years old now, and the idea of the male loneliness epidemic, I feel, is like maybe only 3 or 4 years old at this point, or at least that term for it, this kind of generational malaise and isolation that is plaguing young men. People have looked through it through that lens, and kind of like we hinted at, I feel like all avenues are valid here with a movie that is so cryptic, but I think we have a decent handle on what the movie's going for, and we'll get into it as we go through it.
Yeah, I think that's how you and I both defend our interpretation of what you see in the movie, because it's not only defensible from plot logic, specific things you can cite and reference, but it just makes sense as a whole to me. Is like, why make this movie? What's the point of it all? And I like that point, whether you call it the male loneliness epidemic or something else. This guy searching for meaning, gets stuck in his childhood. He's super narcissistic and self-centered, treats women as objects.
Underachiever, lazy.
And it kind of destroys him.
I feel like we can't really talk around the specifics of this movie much more without making ourselves sound crazy. So is it about time to dig into the plot here?
Yeah, let's jump in. Sam, played by Andrew Garfield, is a broke, unemployed young man just days away from being evicted from his Eastside LA apartment. He's increasingly troubled by dreams, visions, and paranoia, including the enduring belief that there are hidden messages coded in popular media by which powerful people communicate to each other. He's also kind of a creep around women, like when he ogles his cute blonde neighbor Sarah, played by Riley Keough, through binoculars as she's sunning herself by the pool, until he's interrupted by his sometime girlfriend, played by Ricky Lindholm, who stopped by to bring him lunch and have sex. Meanwhile, the city of LA is buzzing with the news that billionaire celebrity mogul Jefferson Sevens has gone missing. And in more local buzz, Sam picks up a comic zine promising to unveil the secrets behind the ongoing saga of the Silver Lake dog killer who's been terrorizing the area. Later that evening, Sam's blonde neighbor, Sarah, invites him inside, and they start to get friendly until her 2 female roommates come home, along with a pirate-looking guy with an eye patch. To Sam's disappointment, Sarah abruptly cuts the night short. Even worse, in the morning, Sam finds that Sarah and her friends are gone. Somehow they moved out, emptying their apartment in the middle of the night. Sam breaks in and rifles through the one small box of Sarah's stuff that she left on a shelf. Then, when a different set of 3 girls show up to claim the box of stuff, Sam surreptitiously follows them throughout their day. He sees them rent pedal boats on Echo Park Lake, where they rendezvous with the pirate guy from the night before and hand him Sarah's shoebox. Later that evening, Sam follows those three girls to a party on the rooftop of the Standard Hotel downtown, where he ogles an attractive dancer covered in balloons, played by Grace Van Patten, and he watches local band Jesus and the Brides of Dracula perform. Then Sam confronts one of the girls he followed in the bathroom and asks her about Sarah, but when he becomes aggressive, the girl, played by Zasha Mamet, kicks him in the nuts and walks away. After recovering, one of the Brides of Dracula hands Sam an invite to her secret solo show at a cemetery the following night. Then Sam and everyone else at the bar notice the presence of Millicent Sevens, played by Callie Hernandez, daughter of the missing billionaire, just as news is breaking that her father has been found dead. The bodies of Jefferson Sevens and three young women, presumed to be sex workers, were found in Sevens' car, all burned beyond recognition. And later, as Sam walks home through a wooded path at the edge of Griffith Park, he imagines he's being stalked by a shadowy figure. He dives into some bushes to hide and gets sprayed right in the face by a skunk. Then, to make things worse, when Sam gets back home, he sees on the news that Sarah's distinctive wide-brimmed hat was found in Severance's smoldering vehicle, and he fears the worst.
Yeah, a lot happens in that first act. That is a action-packed first act of a movie, but we got to start with Andrew Garfield as Sam. I don't think there's a scene in this movie where he's not in it, right? He's pretty much, we follow him. We see this whole odyssey through his eyes the entire time. It's an inspired bit of casting because Andrew Garfield, not only is he handsome, but he just seems like a genuine good dude.
Yes. The script was not written with him in mind, apparently, but man, does he make this movie work.
Yeah.
It works so effectively on me because you're right. He's a cutie, and it explains why the women in this movie like him, despite the fact that he's kind of a loser and kind of a creep around them. And he's just so good natured that even though he's doing creep shit, from the very moment you see him, I forgave him. It's that cult of celebrity thing where oh, he's okay. He must be the good guy in this movie. So it uses movie tricks, including a really likable actor star, to subvert you. The movie wants you to think and be like him, and it puts a lot of sexy women's bodies on screen. And I'm a man who doesn't mind seeing a sexy woman's body. And so I'm getting actively subverted into this character's worldview.
Yeah. And I think it would be an interesting thought exercise to ask people who've seen this movie a couple times, be like, when did you first realize that Sam was like a fucking maniac? And for me, it's a scene in the first act that we didn't really talk about. But like we mentioned, we meet him ogling women through his binoculars. But then later that night, after he leaves Sarah's apartment, he finds some kids vandalizing his car and several cars on the streets. They've keyed cars, they've thrown exit cars, they're peeing on a car.
Right.
And there's some kind of sticky substance all over Sam's door.
Yeah, like chewing gum, probably.
Yeah, something like that. And then Sam creeps up on one of them and just fucking punches him in the face. And a weird lizard part of your brain is like, hell yeah, brother. If I found some kids fucking up my car, I wouldn't do that, but I would want to. And he's actually living my fantasy. But then he keeps going.
Yes.
He starts shoving eggs into this kid's mouth and punching them into his mouth. And then another kid runs up on him and he just wails him in the stomach. And and then you look at his face and he's insane. He's got this crazed look on his face. You're like, oh, this guy's a dangerous weirdo.
Yes, the way that the violence springs out of Andrew Garfield's Sam is impressive. And you're right, that scene forces you to feel both sides of the story in very quick succession because they're real pieces of shit, these kids. They're they're gloating and they're just enjoying destroying cars. They didn't just put a scratch in his car, they keyed the shit out of his car.
No, they keyed the entire perimeter of his car.
They drew a big dick on the hood. They just scratched the hell out of his
Mustang, by the way, which he doesn't have a lot of money, clearly. So this Mustang must be his most expensive possession.
That's true. That's another sign that he's at least a little douchey, if not a bad person.
He's got a Mustang.
He's got a black Mustang 5.0 that he cherishes.
Yeah. Is parking in Silver Lake as easy as they make it look in this movie? I think not.
It might be a little tough. That's a little bit of a quieter neighborhood. It's purely residential back where the backside of his apartment lets out. So there's not a ton of competition with local businesses. But you could say that's another element that the director is subtly telling you that this reality is in his mind. His car's right there when he needs it. It's one of many things.
Yeah, he's beating up kids. He's ogling women through binoculars. He's aggressively confronting Zosha in the women's bathroom. And then, interestingly enough, when she knees him in the balls and a group of women come in and start yelling at him, they yell at him for a few seconds, but then they start barking at him. It's a running theme in this movie that when women frustrate or anger Sam, he starts hearing them bark instead of what they're actually saying.
Yeah, definitely planting seeds.
He carries around dog biscuits all the time, but he doesn't have a dog.
Yeah, he mysteriously had a biscuit in his pocket ready to give Sarah's dog, which is how he befriends her that evening.
Luckily, she comes outside before he can do anything.
Yeah, you start to wonder, because the other thing we hear about dogs is that they're all going missing. The neighborhood is plastered with missing dog posters, and we've now heard the story of the Silver Lake dog killer.
So what we're getting at is Sam is the dog killer. It's going to become increasingly obvious as we go through this synopsis that Sam is the dog killer. I don't even think, like, I watched one essay where the guy was like, the movie never answers the question of who the dog killer was because it doesn't matter. Obsessing about things like that is what Mitchell's trying to trick you into doing. And I was like, no, Sam's the fucking dog killer.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with you. The movie makes a lot more sense if you come at it believing that's what it's trying to tell you. Of course, it leaves some of it open-ended and mysterious and doesn't hold your hand that much, but it's weird. It doesn't work for me as a movie where there's a lot of actual supernatural things happening, and yet it's supposed to teach you lessons about real things like male-female relationships and Hollywood power structures.
Yeah.
It sucks. As a movie that's trying to teach you real-world stuff that has random half-assed supernatural stuff in it, that's not a good way to make a movie. But a movie that's trying to teach you about real-world stuff through a guy who's truly deluded and doesn't see the real world, that makes a lot more sense to me.
And he verbalizes his worldview at times, and people look at him like he's got 8 heads because he makes no fucking sense. And we'll get into that a little more, but let's talk about Sarah a little bit, the Riley Keough character, who's shockingly not in a ton of the movie. She's really in the first act and briefly in the third act. It was almost Dakota Johnson. Different movie with Dakota Johnson and the female lead, because her and Riley Keough do not have the same energy.
Yeah, I think Riley Keough's energy is perfect for the way this role plays out. I think Dakota would have been kind of wasted because I think the value she brings is in her attitude, her personality, her sort of actual personality that she brings to characters. And Sarah is designed to not have a personality or have this very thin, like idealized personality because she may be largely fictitious in Sam's mind. And so she's an archetype. She's a femme fatale. She's a mystery woman. And that works. She inhabits that really well. Half the time she's on screen, it's a dream sequence. She's not real. She's lit very theatrically in this old Hollywood style. And she does a great job with that.
Yeah, Dakota Johnson has like a cynicism to her that I don't think would have worked as well. Not that Riley Keough can't play that. She certainly has, but it's not inherent to her identity as an actor like it is to Dakota Johnson's.
Yeah, the parts where Sarah does actually voice her own thoughts and opinions is in that first scene where they get together in her bedroom and they're getting to know. And she's being a full-on manic pixie dream girl, right? She's just cutesy and talking about the quirky, her favorite thing to eat is saltines and orange juice, and you wouldn't believe it, but it tastes amazing and you got to try it. And it's
That's
just
not
like,
that far-fetched. I don't even understand what we're talking about here. It's a perfectly normal thing to eat.
Okay. It seems weird to me. I don't drink orange juice because it's too acidic.
Very
to me,
acidic.
but
Yeah, very much. So she's also, did you catch like when she goes outside, there's random fireworks. Sarah looks very upset and distressed by them.
Yeah.
Do you think she was maybe in the military or?
She is upset by fireworks almost like a dog would be.
Almost like a dog would be, yeah.
But also there's an argument that people make that the fireworks themselves were the literal communication from the shadowy cabal that's telling her it's time for her disappearance, right? That was the clue to her and her roommates to pack up and move out.
That is interesting. It makes sense. I might be on board with that theory.
Yeah, it works. I mean, the plot parts of the movie do work. So if you want to say this is a real conspiracy theory where these real rich people do these actual crazy things with young women, you can connect the dots. It makes sense on the surface.
The bigger question is how much of all of that is real to begin with.
Yeah.
But Sarah is not the only beautiful blonde woman in Sam's life.
It's true.
He's got Ricky Lindholm brings him sushi and has sex with him in the middle of the day, even though his apartment smells like skunks. And Ricky Lindholm, a great comedian and actress, part of the comedy duo Garfunkel and Oates, which I always love the name because obviously they're taking the two least popular parts of a duo and combining them.
It's cute.
And she's a certain type of lady, let's say, a little meek, a little submissive, doting on Sam, much like his mother, who we hear on the phone in the beginning. And to me, we're seeing a pattern here where that's the only kind of woman that Sam can maintain a positive relationship, in his mind at least, with, is when they're doting and submissive and meek.
There's a lot going on in this scene. You learn a lot about Sam from his relationship to her. He loves getting the free sushi in the middle of the day that was unexpected. He's half-heartedly having sex with her. And the director goes to great lengths to make that scene very sexual, very explicit. And yet Sam is bored until he sees Millicent Sevence on screen.
I don't know. They do have a full-blown conversation about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana mid-sex, mid-coitus tinnitus, if you will. But yeah, what sends him over the edge? What finally lets him wrap this whole thing up?
The news is putting on the story about Jefferson Seven's missing, and it shows his family photo with all his kids, and he zooms in on Millicent, who's the one who's age appropriate to him. And as soon as he sees her face and stares at her a little bit, he gets off.
Yeah, this woman who's in distress because her father is missing, presumed dead. That's what does it for him. More evidence that Sam is maybe not the best dude that's ever lived.
He's weird, but that's pretty subtle. I didn't notice that until one of my later watches. And you don't realize maybe how much he's focused on Millicent Sevens, because he's observing her from afar for a lot of this movie. And there's a lot of other detailed stuff that's happening to him that's much bigger and bolder on the screen during that time. But really, the movie is heading towards Millicent Sevens a lot of the time.
Callie Hernandez, an actor I'm pretty fond of. We saw her in Alien Covenant.
That's right.
Thought she was good in that. And you just watched her in La La Land as well.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize I was. She's one of the roommates of the Emma Stone character, I think.
Yeah, Tracy, according to Wikipedia. But a good actor. I like her a lot. But there's also some hints that Ricky Lindholm's character might be an adult actress.
Yeah.
She's in a German Oktoberfest barmaid outfit, but not like a real one. It seems kind of cheap. And later we see her in, I'm going to put this in quotes, a nurse outfit.
Yes.
I wouldn't even call it a uniform because no nurse would ever wear this. It's nylon, I think. And she's got a garter belt that's visible.
Right. It's a mini dress. It's sexy nurse. Her costumes, which are loosely referred to as she's an actress. I had a gig.
This is for a role. Yeah. Like she's always explaining her.
But they're Halloween costume type. These are not authentic wardrobe pieces.
And not that there's anything wrong with being an adult actress, but I think it is also making a statement about the people who maybe aren't in the upper tier of LA Hollywood elite. These are people a step down from that, which is even more explicitly touched on in the second act. We'll get into that too, with an actual actress who's acclaimed, but also an escort.
Yes. There's a constant overlap between acting and sex work.
Now, would you call yourself a fan of the old Universal monster movies?
Absolutely.
Does this shadowy figure have kind of a Creature from the Black Lagoon vibe to you?
Oh, man, you barely see him. It's really a shadowy outline, but he has that slumped kind of shape to him, standing arms out to the sides a little bit. I could go with that.
He's not real. It's Sam. That's my opinion anyway. But apropos of nothing, but I was looking in Sam's apartment. Is there a Creature from the Black Lagoon poster? And lo and behold, there is.
Oh, okay. I remember seeing a Dracula one. Sam is like an amalgam of Hollywood striver archetypes, right? He's got old movie posters on his walls. He's got a ton of musical instruments, and no one ever says what he's actually doing in Hollywood. It's like he's trying to be...
He's clearly not a native because his mom is always calling him and saying she's going to mail him things.
Right.
So he's not from LA originally. He moved there with some intention of doing something with his life that never quite panned out.
And it was kind of it looks like an intention to do everything. Writer, director, actor, musician, all of the above.
Was there anything else from the first act you wanted to touch on, or should we move on to act two?
No, let's see what happens next.
When shit gets real weird. The next day, Sam's girlfriend comes over again with tomato juice to help Sam wash away the skunk spray. She reads a story from the comic zine about the owl's kiss, a malevolent spirit in the form of a naked lady with an owl feather mask who seduces then murders her victims on behalf of powerful forces. Later, Sam goes to meet the comic writer who created the zine. The writer, played by Patrick Fischler, fills Sam in with more details on various conspiracy theories, then shows him the secret hatch where he keeps his security camera screens. Later that night, after Sam's car is repossessed, he walks to Hollywood Forever Cemetery. There's a movie playing on the outdoor screen, and he meets a pretty young actress from the movie who's there in person. Then he goes into a crypt to see the band play. At the door, Sam eats the entire cookie which he'd been given as an invitation. This becomes a problem later when he realizes the cookie was laced with drugs. Inside the party, Sam sees his friend Alan, played by Jimmy Simpson, who tells him there are hidden messages in the new record by Jesus and the Brides. Then Sam dances with the balloon girl from the night before until he becomes too high, throws up, and passes out. The next day, Sam is driving himself crazy trying to find the hidden message in the record. Then he notices an ad for an escort service featuring the movie actress he met at the cemetery, so he calls and has her come over. She tells him she once met Sarah at a party at the walled hilltop compound of a wealthy and mysterious songwriter. Later, after she leaves, Sam finally believes he's decoded a message from the Jesus record. It tells him to rub Dean's head and wait under Newton. So he goes up to the Griffith Observatory where there's a bust of James Dean and a statue of Sir Isaac Newton. At the statue, Sam is approached by a ragged man in a filthy cardboard crown who says he's the homeless king. The homeless king blindfolds Sam and leads him through Griffith Park and into a complex of tunnels. Sam continues through the tunnels alone and discovers what looks like a luxurious bomb shelter under construction. When he comes back to the surface, Sam tries to visit of the comic writer, but his house is taped off and the cops tell him that the writer killed himself. As soon as the cops leave, Sam breaks into the house and goes into the writer's secret room to watch the security camera tapes. In horror, Sam sees the nude form of the owl's kiss creeping through the house on her way to murder the writer. Next, Sam tracks down the singer Jesus at a party. He viciously beats the rocker until he confesses that he didn't write the song with the secret coded message. It was forced on him by his record label and written by a mystery man known only as the songwriter. So Sam gets some help from his escort actress friend who leads him to the walled compound she told him about. Sam hops the wall and enters the songwriter's opulent mansion alone. He confronts the grizzled old songwriter who's sitting at a grand piano in a music room full of instruments and memorabilia. The songwriter launches into a rant telling Sam he's the secret writer behind hit songs of many generations, all while playing a medley to illustrate just how huge and diverse a set of tunes his catalog encompasses. Sam is shocked and angered to realize that the culture of music he grew up aspiring to be a part of was all a lie, and he comes at the songwriter, demanding to know who's paying him to write the songs. But the songwriter pulls a pistol and starts blasting. Sam dodges the old-timer's bullets and then rushes him. He flattens the songwriter and then brutally bashes in the man's skull with Kurt Cobain's Fender Mustang.
You thought a lot happened in the first act.
Yeah, quite a series of events that unfold here. Some of my favorite sequences in the movie, though, are in this section, and we will talk about them. But let's start with the Ricky Lindholm and Sam scene where he's doing the traditional remedy for skunk spray, which is a tomato soup bath. It seems like mostly water with a little tomato soup thrown in there because there's like 4 cans of tomato soup.
There's some big cans scattered around, but it's hard to say if he's really getting the job done. And the rest of the movie kind of tells you that he didn't do such a great job because everybody comments on his smell the rest of the time.
Yeah. As I briefly mentioned in the last act, we've already had some complaints about skunk smell in his apartment, which means this probably wasn't the first time he was sneaking around the bushes of Silver Lake when he got sprayed just this once.
Yeah, that's another subtle clue. This guy spends a lot of his time in the bushes.
And this is maybe the first, like, if you weren't already on board with the Sam as a crazy weirdo act, I'm sorry, not crazy. I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose people. Cuckoo bananas, let's say.
Yeah.
If you weren't sure that Sam was cuckoo bananas already, he goes on this long rant about watching Wheel of Fortune every night to track Vanna White's movements and see if there was a secret message hidden in how she turned certain tiles and how she walked and where she looked when she was doing it, which his girlfriend had almost uncovered his writings about this the day prior, but he had hidden them in a hurry.
Yeah, it's amazing because what you know about his girlfriend is that she tolerates a lot of stuff. She's fawning over him. She's overly nice to him. And yet she reaches a breaking point in this scene where he starts manically ranting about stuff. And he's like, oh, you think I'm weird? And she's like, yeah.
A little.
But sadly, she wraps up that scene by saying, I gotta go, but I'll be back when the smell wears off. So she's sadly stuck in being that girl, even though she's seen the red flags.
Maybe. But if you were going to leave a guy like Sam, would you be like, I'm done with you, I'll never see you again? Or would you just try to leave and maybe never call him again?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Maybe she's one step ahead.
Because she doesn't seem like an idiot or anything. She's recognizing the red flags now for sure. And then I did enjoy, me and Ian had a conversation yesterday about Patrick Fischler and David Dastmalchian being maybe the same person, maybe an older brother, younger brother pair. But we need to get them in a movie together as soon as possible, please.
Yeah, I thought I was seeing David. Wait, how do you say his name?
Dastmalchian.
Dastmalchian? I thought I was seeing him. And then I looked at the cast list and I'm like, oh, that's Patrick Fischler. I know that name too. They look really similar. They're both fantastic at playing creepy dudes. And Patrick Fischler is the actual actor who plays comic writer. I think he's credited.
Yeah, a lot of unnamed characters in this movie.
Yeah, nobody has a name. Sam barely gets a name. Sarah gets a name, but his girlfriend is the actress.
I think that's intentional to throw into question how much of this is real. We're pretty certain Millicent's a real person because she gets a first and last name.
She has a full name. It's like how real they are and also how real they are to Sam because he doesn't treat people outside himself as real. It's like extreme sort of narcissism that he seems to display.
But to kind of expand on our discussion about Patrick Fischler, and David Dastmalchian has an inherent darkness to him, and Fischler has more of an inherent loserness to him, I would say. I love them both as actors. I'm not trying to be mean to Patrick Fischler, but like he's always kind of like a jerk, but also kind of pathetic as the character he plays a lot.
Yeah.
Not in this movie, to be clear, though. Yeah, he's nice in this movie.
But he's self-deprecating, or he's not. He's actually pretty convinced of everything he talks about, but it's played for laughs. This house is like a minefield for Sam because he brings him into his house and it's got all this weird stuff, conspiracy stuff. His walls are covered with these life masks of famous people, plaster castings of their faces. And the place is weird as shit. And the character tells Sam, these are all life masks made from real people. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, look at his walls. And he goes, I should get a family. And you're thinking, oh, this guy just realized that he's a loser and he's super weird. And he's like, so I have someone to leave all this to.
It's a great joke. He's maybe a bit too trusting with who he shares his secret surveillance bunker with. He shows Sam all the little crevices in his home. home and how to defeat his defenses. Yeah, maybe that'll come up later after the guy died. I don't know.
I guess we're going to loop around within this act to the man's death and the aftermath.
But yeah, this is where the movie really starts to go down the conspiratorial rabbit hole in a big way. And you start to realize that this is going to be the main crux of the movie, I think, is Sam trying to decode what's happening through the eyes of this Owl's Kiss conspiracy that he's learning about.
Yeah, which comes kind of late, which is part of the interesting way this movie unfolds. It adds the Owl's Kiss as like a major plot element and conspiracy theory in the second act. And then that develops and then it adds more theories. It makes sense from the point of view of the character who's becoming more and more unhinged. He's coming up with more and more outlandish rationalizations and images in his life to explain everything. But in terms of if it was like a regular movie, you wouldn't just add like the only truly supernatural creature in this film shows up in the middle and then it's not directly tied to the big plot that gets solved at the end. It does make the movie kind of weird.
I would argue the songwriter has to be blatantly supernatural as well to exist the way he does.
That's true. He's a little bit supernatural.
I'll explain more about that when we get to that section to discuss it.
The homeless king, the coyotes, they all have little bits of supernatural stuff to them.
Yeah, they're fringe. I think the songwriter and the Owl's Kiss are decidedly supernatural elements of the movie, though.
Okay, that's fair.
And we got to talk a little bit about Jimmy Simpson as Alan.
A real person.
A delight.
You believe this guy exists?
Yes, because other people interact with him. He's like the mayor of Silver Lake, it seems like. He knows everybody. He knows how to get into all the parties. I viewed him as a positive mirror image of Sam. He seems to be suffering from the same aimlessness that Sam is, because like whenever either one of them gets asked about work, or even when they talk to each other and they ask about their work, they're both kind of like, oh, your work's good, working a lot, just thinking about stuff, thinking about the world, which is like a vague deflection of, I don't want to talk about that because I don't have a career to speak of at the moment. But he seems well liked and decent, juxtaposed with Sam and the Topher Grace character, who are both kind of scumbags.
Yeah, Alan, he's on the inside. He's a step ahead of Sam in terms of he's the one who gets invited to the parties and actually is friends with the people at these parties, not just a creepy guy who sits on the edges and watches the parties like Sam is. And then Topher Grace is the other friend that seems to ground him to reality. It seems to be just sort of an ordinary guy, but we find out he's pretty weird.
That already happened, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe it did. We didn't have room to talk about it in the synopsis.
No, but Topher, he's got a drone. He spies on women in their bedroom, and he seems like he sucks. I don't know.
He starts off nice. He's Topher Grace. He's friendly. He's amiable. He's just being a reasonable sounding board for Sam to bounce ideas off of. And then you get to his house, and he's as creepy or more than Sam at creeping on women, because he's flying a drone up to this woman's house because he's like, oh, a really hot lady lives here, and he's watching through her window. And then they sit and watch as this lady comes home, takes off her blouse, and proceeds to burst into tears, like a full-on breakdown that's really sad and really painful to watch.
Even Sam is like, I gotta go. This is a bit much. But the casting of Topher Grace in that role is inspired too, because he kind of was a generation earlier's version of Andrew Garfield, to the point where I think he was considered for Spider-Man. He eventually became Venom.
Okay.
He's got that likable everyman,
boyish quality. Yeah.
Yeah. But here, I think you described him. He's all done up like a true Silver Lake hipster, or I guess Echo Park hipster.
Yeah. He's got gauges in his ears.
The bowler cap, the gauges, the thick glasses. He's certainly got a style to him that screams hipster.
Does.
So then they go to, Sam keeps getting into these cool parties and buying drinks for people, which, where's he get the money? That's a rabbit hole. I don't know if I'm prepared to go down in this episode, but
Sam is broke, but he has money throughout. And that's another one of our clues that hints that he is taking that money off of people that he might be killing.
Yeah. Or at least mugging, because Topher Grace's character says something like, it's bad enough that you get mugged, but then you have to watch some crazy person kill your dog. So that's our first hint that the dog killer is also mugging people, which would explain why Sam has some money for drinks and food, but maybe not enough to pay his rent.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to care about rent, but yeah, he's got no lack of cool stuff in his place. He buys drinks, he orders pizza, he calls escort services, although there's a little seed of doubt planted that he was going to be able to pay for that. But
you gave a credit card when you called, right? And he's like, so what's going on? He just changes the subject very casually. But then, so he gets invited to all these cool parties, and then he gets invited to the cooler parties underneath the cool parties. Like they go to this crypt underneath the cemetery where a DJ is playing 90s tunes, and he's hanging out talking to Balloon Girl, played by Grace Van Patten. By the way, daughter of maybe one of the greatest living TV directors of all time, Tim Van Patten.
Okay.
He directed many of the best episodes of The Sopranos, Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Boardwalk Empire he was heavily involved in.
I didn't know that. I knew that she was the niece of actor Dick Van Patten.
Oh, yeah.
Who for my generation was like the star of 8 is Enough and other kind of 80s TV shows.
No, so she comes from a Hollywood royalty family.
That's true.
But then the song What's the Frequency, Kenneth by REM comes on, and Sam's face lights up and he's got to dance to it. Certainly there's no hints in the lyrics of what's the frequency, Kenneth, to Sam's condition, right?
It's a song inspired by a real-life event where a troubled, mentally ill young man who was consumed by conspiracy theories attacked Dan Rather on the street. And then Michael Stipe was inspired by that and wrote a song where the lyrics are about a young man trying to find meaning in comics and music. And so, yes, it's on the nose if you know about it. And honing in on the specifics, I just learned this fact moments before we went on air. In the video for the song What's Frequency, Kenneth by R.E.M., Peter Buck, the guitar player, is literally playing Kurt Cobain's guitar. He was close to Kurt when Kurt died. He was given that guitar as a gift, and he's playing that guitar in that song.
Wow, I did not know that. Never much of an R.E.M. fan, but I really like this song.
Yeah, it's catchy. I didn't like them at the time, but now I kind of like it.
You get older, you just learn to appreciate things.
You do.
I always liked like Losing My Religion, but that's like the hit everyone knows.
But this scene is ironic because Sam is at his most free there. The balloon girl literally tells him, hey, lighten up, just live your life, enjoy people and sex and the pleasures of life and don't get consumed in these conspiracy theories. And so he almost has a good moment, and it's while listening to this song that's all about a man consumed by conspiracy theories.
And on a heavy dose of hallucinogens.
Didn't help his stability.
And then from this one moment of levity in Sam's life, we go to maybe his most manic moments where he's trying to decode the Jesus and the Brides of Dracula song. And this is why I think it would be so fun to talk to people and find out when they realize Sam is crazy, because if you didn't yet, this has got to be it, right? This has got to be the scene where you're like, this guy's fucking insane. He is making up these ciphers and codes that mean nothing and just applying meaning to them out of thin air.
Yeah.
But like doing it in the trappings of a real kind of procedural detective type sequence where it seems like he's doing something, but when you actually listen to what he's saying and doing, he's doing nothing. He's making things up out of thin air.
It's subtly hilarious. You start to get the idea that it's a parody of one of those scenes. It's not the actual hero cracks the code scene. It's manic, deranged hero thinks he cracked the code, but it works. At least in his view of the world, he gets a code that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Rub Dean's head and wait under Newton, like he manages to decipher that that's a reference to the Griffith Observatory.
I think I flew a plane into that in a Grand Theft Auto game.
Oh yeah, that probably happened. And they flew a blimp into it or over it in The Rocketeer, as we covered on this show.
Oh, right.
Big climactic scene.
Howard Hughes, big character in that movie. Another crazy Angelino. It's got a lot in common with Sam in these scenes, except he has money.
So if you believe that Sam is really off his rocker when he comes up with this code, then what happens to him next? Is any of that real? He goes to the observatory, he does this thing, and then this guy shows up who calls himself the Homeless King.
Did you just ask me if a homeless man came out of a hatch in the ground wearing a cape and a cardboard crown and a little cardboard star on his chest and led Sam to an underground bunker? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, I'm asking, is that plausible?
No. The answer is no. That is not plausible. Sam is crazy.
You pointed out to me the Homeless King is not the only unhoused person who shows up in this film. There's several instances, and there's several more in the background, which are obviously just part of the realities of living in Los Angeles, but they specifically create this ironic tension because Sam is, especially at the end, we'll get to that, he goes on a whole rant how he hates the homeless, but he's acting like them. He's doing what they say they're doing, lurking at the fringes of places and watching people enjoy pleasures that they can't have. And the last thing that happens in this movie is Sam literally becomes homeless. So there's definitely some irony going on there.
Yeah, in the first act, he goes to confront his landlord about Sarah's sudden disappearance. And the landlord says, maybe she didn't like you. Maybe she knows you're poor and about to lose your apartment. And maybe she didn't want to date a homeless man. There's a lot of projection from Sam onto the homeless because of his own shortcomings. More so in that scene with Millicent in the third act. So maybe we'll get more in depth onto it there. But yeah, there is a tension in the fact that Sam is so anti-homeless and he's about to be homeless.
It's very telling. And you got to watch out for clues like that in this movie. There's a lot of them that are subtextual. People say lines about other people that have a secondary meaning. If you're thinking about all the things that the movie's trying to get you to think about, that's one that's pretty literal. But another thing happens at that party. He hears the Zasha Mamet character talking about Jesus, the womanizing lead singer of the band, saying if he wasn't so handsome, he'd never get away with it. And I'm like, that's my theory about the whole movie about Sam. Is if he wasn't so handsome, he wouldn't get away with what he's been doing with his life.
Yeah, casting Andrew Garfield in such an unlikable role. It's weaponizing his charm in a very interesting and fun way.
It's great.
So then we move on back to the comic zine writer's house, Patrick Fischler's character. He dead.
Yeah. A lot of blood.
A lot of blood. Sam has a funny conversation with the cop. He goes, he didn't seem suicidal. And the cop says, I was in his house for 2 hours. There's something wrong with him. But then another telling moment here, I noticed that Sam doesn't have to look for a point of entry into Fischler's house when he tries to sneak in. He goes directly to a window where the bars are broken enough for him to slide through. Maybe he snuck into this house before.
Yeah, that's a great point. He just runs straight to the back of the house to this place where the bars were obviously pried apart before and hops right in. And I didn't even notice. It happens really fast. And I think it's meant to not be obvious, but I think it's, again, another specific point the movie's making.
So he watches on the security camera as the owl's kiss sneaks into Fischler's home and kills him. I'll say what we think is happening here is that Sam is watching himself do this murder and is there to erase the evidence. But due to his insanity and need to perceive himself as good, he sees the owl's kiss instead to protect his own image of himself.
Yes. And I don't know if everybody agrees with us on this point, but I'm totally on board with that interpretation.
But you left a note here that just if you take this movie and this scene in particular in face value, this is a very creepy, scary scene.
Yeah, it's killer horror. Obviously, Mitchell knows how to do scary horror scenes. He got famous doing that. And this particular scene uses a technique that I always noticed going back to Malignant when I had a revelation about what makes good horror really powerful is the reaction shots.
It's when you have a baby coming out the back of your head.
Well, that too. That's pretty horrible. But it was, what's her name? The star's face, her reactions.
Annabelle Wallace.
And Sam is watching this videotape, and the fear on his face is what makes this scene really scary. Also, the owl's kiss is creepy as fuck.
Such a creepy, it's just a lady in a mask, but the way she moves is so measured and clearly some kind of gymnast or acrobat because she leans all the way back, like all her weight's on her back and just kind of makes these long strides. It looks unhuman in a very fun way.
It's super weird and super cool.
Also, go listen to our Malignant episode with our friend Haley. Great episode.
That was a fun one.
All right. So then we get to the songwriter sequence, which is fucked up and crazy and weird, but one of my favorite scenes in a movie in a long time.
It's such a special scene. Everybody remarks on it. And this scene alone is kind of worth the price of admission of the whole movie. Even though it's really unique, it stands out. You don't see it coming. It's not the climax that you thought you were heading towards, but boy, is it pay off.
So set the tone. The songwriter looks to be about 150 years old. He's got very grisly old man makeup on. Apparently the actor who played him was 36 at the time of filming, which is pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
And come to find out, the songwriter is kind of an ancient being, kind of a god. He's playing a medley of all the songs he's written. Some of the Easter eggs in there are the Spider-Man theme, of course. There's a few Spider-Man references throughout the movie, playing on the fact that was obviously Garfield's most prominent role to date. But also there's like Beethoven sprinkled in there. Like this guy's been around for centuries at this point. There's a piano cover of Where Is My Mind? Because how else are you going to let us know a movie character is crazy without putting in a piano cover of Where Is My Mind? I thought I got my fill of this in The Leftovers, but no, it's back. But just the songs are good too, and they're performed well, which is like kind of an underrated part of this whole thing.
Yeah, it's really great just as filmmaking to be able to introduce a character out of nowhere, and that character is so compelling. It's just kind of one big rant of him while he's playing the piano, and it's building and building, and it's more and more mind-blowing and world-shattering as he tells you, yeah, I did all this stuff. It doesn't mean anything. I was handed some codes, and I weave them into the music, and it's all bullshit to me. I blow my nose in a Kleenex, and then I make a song out of that. It's nothing. You know, like he's destroying Sam's world, which is built on the idea that creative endeavors are the source of all meaning in his life.
Oh, that song you thought was so important, I wrote between a blowjob and an omelet. There's a lot of evocative imagery.
He's a dick. He's wonderfully like charismatic and repulsive and scary at the same time. It's really cool.
He's getting more and more antagonistic as the scene goes on, though, as he's feeding off of Sam's anger and disillusion at what he's finding out about his precious art. So what do you think's really happening here? Because the songwriter is not a 300-year-old eldritch horror who's good at making songs.
It's hard to say. And what's great about this scene is you stop thinking about it for a while because the particulars of the scene are so engrossing. But it could be that there was a real songwriter who lived in a house and these girls went to his party and Sam turned it into something that he cooked up in his head. It could be that there was no songwriter, that the songwriter, like the owl's kiss, like the dog killer, is another fantasy construction that represents part of Sam's personality.
So what I think happens here, because Sam does have a gun after this scene for the rest of the movie, which indicates he went somewhere and got a gun. So I do think he went to a prominent, music producer in LA's house and probably murdered him and took his gun, because this is the first time we see Sam kill somebody. We might suspect he's done it before by this point, but we actually see him murder the songwriter. So I think the songwriter getting more and more antagonistic and aggressive as the scene goes on is Sam hyping himself up that like this guy is going to try to kill me and I need to kill him first. And then he goes and does it and takes his gun. and is on his way.
Yeah. And he's so reveling in it. You know, it's a slow motion as he's repeatedly bashing the guy's brains into mush with Kurt Cobain's guitar, which has other levels of meaning and irony stitched into it. But just like he did when he attacked the Vandal kids, he gets off on violence. And if you didn't pick up on that before, you definitely see it this time.
Yeah, going back to the Vandal kids thing, when he wakes up the next day and he's still got stuff, his hand is stuck to a comic book. I thought they were like trying to make a statement about how he came because he was beating up people. Then his hand has some red stuff on it, like some goo from the car. So I don't know if that was maybe a leap too far.
Because that's one of the Spider-Man jokes is when Spider-Man starts to get his powers and suddenly things start sticking to his hand.
His hand is stuck to a Spider-Man comic too.
It's stuck to a Spider-Man comic, but it is the chewing gum or whatever from the car last night. But it does make you think, because we're not just jumping to the idea that he's jerking off around printed material. He literally does that 5 times in this movie. This movie is a lot about spanking it to newspapers and magazines. So there's a little bit of everything. You can go any way you want to with a lot of these elements.
I think it's in this act where he makes the complicated mosaic to jerk off to, right?
I think so.
And once again, he has a picture of Millicent looking distraught that he keeps focusing on.
He loves to look at her, and then it'll come around in the end. He has his childhood's favorite Playboy that he stole from his dad's stash, and Millicent's final way she ends up quite resembles that picture on the front of that Playboy.
Sure does. All right, so you ready to take us home?
Well, let me drop one tiny Blast Zone tidbit.
Oh, here we go.
Tidbit. When Sam goes to visit the songwriter's compound, he jumps the exact same wall that Carl Lumbly's Rastafarian alien John Parker jumps when he goes into Buckaroo Banzai's compound.
Oh, snap.
And that compound is, I see it from where I live. I don't want to give too much away about where I live, but that wall is not far from me. It's on the next hill over. And did I mention so much of this movie is hyper local and hyper specific to me?
Yeah, you mentioned to me that you used to go to the standard rooftop for happy hours all the time, with the party where he meets the balloon girl.
And that's the bonus part. This movie, as far as we've talking about, it's trying to suck you in. It's trying to pull you into its conspiracy mindset. And this movie has an extra leverage over me because everything in this movie comes from my life. The first scene in the movie is 2 blocks from my elementary school. Yeah. He follows the 3 girls. They stop at my high school. He drinks in the bars I've been to. The standard downtown isn't close to me, but it just happened to be that I used to work across the street from that. So I spent a lot of time in that bar. I used to walk those trails in the park. So it's crazy local to me. It's extra meaningful to me for that reason. And it's actually extra appealing to my logical brain. I always want movies' logic to work. And obviously, movies always take tons of liberties with locations and places, even when they're set in a non-fictional world. But this movie is incredibly plausible in terms of its geography. Everything is pretty much walkable that he walks to. It's a little bit of a stretch from here to there in certain places, but they don't just pick a street with a billboard when Sam needs to look at a billboard. It's literally the same street where his fictional apartment is supposed to be. And there is a real billboard there. And the bar he goes to with Topher Grace is a block and a half down from there. Every one of these places is really in the space that it purports to be in the movie.
I love that attention to detail from Mitchell. And he's not a native Angelino either. He's a Michigan boy, as we know from It Follows, which is filmed in the suburbs of Detroit where he's from. But I guess this is where he moved to when he went out to Hollywood to chase his dream. So he also had a hyper-specific idea of, I want to film these in the real neighborhoods I know so I can put that extra level of realism into it.
I love that about it. It's really fun.
And just, I know you said some of the walks are a bit of a stretch. My wife, Jamie, is fond of saying anything's walkable if you walk it.
And he does.
2 hours is nothing to her.
Okay. Well, then she can walk from Topher Grace's house to Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
I don't want her going to Topher Grace's house in this movie. He seems like a fucking piece of shit.
Don't let her near Topher Grace, please.
All right. Take us home, Ian.
Okay, here we go. Back at his apartment, an anxious Sam hears a noise, and he discovers the owl's kiss sneaking up behind him with a knife. But when he turns and points a gun at her, she runs away and disappears. Just then, his apartment manager knocks on his door with the county sheriff in tow to evict him. But the sheriff's deputy takes pity, and she lets him stay just one more day. Then Sam sees a coyote, and taking a piece of advice from the homeless king, Sam decides to follow it. The coyote leads him to a swanky house party in the hills. There, he first has an awkward run-in with his ex-girlfriend. Then he approaches Millicent Sevens. He tells her he's been trying to find out what happened to Sarah and to Millicent's dad, and she's moved by his interest, so the two of them connect as they go for a moonlight walk around Silver Lake Reservoir together. Then Millicent suggests that they strip down and go for a swim swim in the lake. While floating in the water, Millicent gives Sam the engraved metal bracelet that she found in her dad's office, hoping that it might contain clues. Suddenly, a sniper's bullets begin to pierce the water. The pair dive below the surface, and Sam manages to escape injury, but Millicent is struck through the heart and killed instantly. Back at his apartment the next day, Sam agonizingly stitches together clues from the bracelet, as well as from a cereal box and a vintage Nintendo magazine. Finally, he comes up with map coordinates, which lead him to an isolated canyon in Griffith Park. There, in a little hut, he meets an older man and 3 young women in white robes. As they serve him tea, the man explains that rich men like him are the true kings of today, and to escape the futility of the modern world, they choose to bury themselves and 3 young brides in underground concrete vaults sealed permanently. From there, they believe they will ascend to the cosmos and take their rightful place. The man puts Sam on a video call with Sarah, who had agreed to be buried with Jefferson Sevens. As Sam and Sarah share some tearful final words, Sarah tells Sam maybe it was a mistake, but she'll just make the best of things, and so should he. Then Sam passes out from the tea, which was drugged, and when he awakes, he finds himself held captive by the homeless king. The king questions why did he have dog biscuits in his pockets, and he suspects Sam of being the Silver Lake dog killer. But Sam explains it away as a longing for his ex-girlfriend and the happy times they had with her dog, and the king lets him go. Back at home and depressed, Sam is uplifted when he gets the idea to hook up with the older lady who lives in the unit across the way. She takes him into her bed, and later, as he smokes a cigarette on her balcony, he watches calmly through the rear window as the sheriff and apartment manager enter his old place and proceed with his eviction.
This is going to be the most difficult act to parse what really happens in probably of all 3. But let's start with this confrontation with the owl's kiss in Sam's apartment. She comes out of a cabinet, I think.
Yeah, like a kitchen cabinet.
And is creeping up in her creepy way behind Sam, but Sam wheels on her, and she, of course, can't hurt Sam because she is Sam, in my opinion. And she runs into Sam's room. Sam goes to check. He looks in his dresser drawer for her as well. She's not in there. But she did come out of a kitchen cabinet, so it's not that far-fetched.
Yeah, like he goes to the closet, then under the bed, and then you're like, why is he looking in a drawer? But you're like, she did manage to entirely disappear from his closed room from which there are no other exits.
He also had to make sure nobody got into his stash of Vanna White pattern notes, because that's where he put them.
Oh, that's true.
His girlfriend found them.
Got to keep those safe.
Now we get the ex-girlfriend scene on the rooftop. Is this the rooftop of the Standard again?
No, this is the house party
that
the coyote took him to. Now that's obviously getting supernatural there. First, you think the sort of coyote talk is metaphorical. Oh, coyotes run this city and they control everything, and you should follow them if you ever run into one.
I've seen Collateral. They do run the city.
Yeah, coyotes are a real presence in my neighborhood. That's another thing that clearly David Robert Mitchell took from living around here. I feel like they're neighbors to me. Every time a fire truck passes by, they erupt in a chorus of laughing baby howling.
That's fucking awesome. I would love to hear that. Can you record it next time?
I'll try. It's crazy. So it's a cool real LA thing that you feel like coyotes might actually run the city, but it leads him to this swanky house party, and he's in his pajamas, and like, again, he's this weird outsider.
So this is the girl from the billboard, the one right outside his apartment that you were just referring to at the end of Act 2. The billboard says, "I can see clearly now." And she doesn't seem thrilled to see Sam.
No, she's very tentative. And first, in a way that's like just ex who went through an uncomfortable breakup. You don't necessarily want to run into them at a party, but she kind of cares about him. She genuinely asks, "Are you okay?" Which suggests that maybe he wasn't okay when she last...
Maybe he had a mental breakdown and killed her dog.
That's a very plausible thought.
She immediately grabs her new fiance, who you can tell by his reaction knows who Sam is, has probably heard all the stories about him, and is maybe a little on edge as well. But another piece of evidence in the Sam being the dog killer thing is that he tells Millicent he never liked dogs because his grandmother's dog bit him when he was a kid. But then he tells the homeless king that he had the dog biscuits because he was trying to remember all the good times he had with his ex-girlfriend and their dog, but he never liked dogs because he got bit as a kid.
Yeah, he's not consistent.
So I'm torn on the homeless king scene where he accuses Sam of being the dog killer. I think the lie that Sam tells does give us some insight into maybe this breakup was a catalyst for his kind of downward spiral into his current state. So it's important in that sense. But I think calling out that Sam's the dog killer weakens it a little bit.
I know what you mean. I kind of needed that crutch. If you're already fully convinced, you're like, oh, they just spoiled it for the people who weren't clever enough to figure it out for themselves. And then Mitchell kind of tries to cover his tracks because the homeless king is pretty wise and powerful, and he's convinced by Sam's story, although he goes, maybe we'll get you later or something like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of theories that the homeless king is a cop that keeps running into Sam and questioning him about what he's doing in these places. And that would make sense for maybe we'll get you later. Like we have more evidence down the road or something, but we're going to let you go now, that is what a cop would do in that situation if he has no physical evidence.
It leaves the door open. Yeah, it is sort of a cop interrogation scene. He's got him in cuffs in a cell, and then he interrogates him and says, okay, you're free to go, but watch your back kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't put enough thought into that to have a great opinion one way or the other, but I do feel like there's something there that feels cop-like.
It's also a good scene from a noir to have the cops turn on the protagonist and become an adversary for him as well, while he's supposedly trying to do good and solve a missing damsel mystery. But I kind of needed the help, so I appreciated that scene because I'm like, oh, okay. That scene helped me put a lot of things together, especially the first time.
The first time you watch, yeah. I'm not sure when I decided that Sam was the dog killer because I watched it over a year and a half ago for the first time. It's hard to remember. But enough about Sam as the dog killer. Let's talk about Sam as the lady killer. And I don't mean the suave Don Juan type. I mean the murdering ladies. Let's talk about the Millicent Seven scene. For a character who's not in the movie very much, Millicent haunts this movie the entire time.
Yeah.
To the point where me and you went down a rabbit hole the other night and we're like, maybe Sam's whole point was to try to meet Millicent. And he was like trying to work his way towards her the entire movie. He keeps running into her at these places, but has no kind of in to talk to her. She says when they're together, I think someone's been following me. And then she dies mysteriously in the same pose as his famous Playboy magazine that he loved.
It's suspicious.
It's suspicious.
I mean, people in these kind of mysteries do die after they meet the protagonist. That's the thing. But in this case, you're like...
When they're taking their walk, she says, anybody who could kill a dog could kill a person. Ooh. And he goes, I'm not so sure about that. As if, hold on, I'll kill a dog, but I draw the line at people. But we don't think that's true. We know it's not true. He murdered the songwriter already. If you're taking this movie at face value, he's already killed a person.
We saw him do that. And based on all this adding up, I came up with my master theory, which is a pretty maximalist interpretation of this movie, which is every disappearance in this movie is actually a murder. So the stuff we hear from the rich people about the ascension chambers and taking the brides, that's not real. Those were just more people that were killed. And every murder is committed by Sam, which I feel like nothing in this movie really challenges that interpretation for me. And people could obviously probably point things out. But your theory about Millicent works perfectly with that too, that he started killing those people. The news was correct. He killed those three girls and Jefferson Sevens and set fire to the car. And it was all part of him trying to get closer to Millicent Sevens.
Yeah, you brought this up off mic, that it's not just missing posters for dogs. It's missing posters for people, and musical instruments are going missing in Silver Lake as well. And what is Sam's apartment full of? All kinds of musical instruments, right?
Yeah, and obviously the songwriter's music room is packed with rare and expensive musical instruments. And I think it might have been the Topher Grace character that mentions the musical instruments. Yeah. Somebody kind of feeds that as exposition to Sam. We mostly see dog posters, but it's people and dogs and musical instruments, which is another tie-in to be like, that's Sam's kind of whole thing.
We are now fully Charlie Day with the red strings.
Yeah.
Have we ever done a movie like this? I don't think we've ever covered a movie that is this open to theorizing and interpretation.
I think about The Empty Man was one that
that's a good one.
Seemed really opaque, and then it cracked open and I'm like, oh my God, that mind blown kind of things.
Empty Man
rocks. We put the pieces together.
I've been meaning to rewatch that actually. And then we get another, Sam's even crazier by this point. We get another Sam decoding messages scene where it goes even further off the deep end. He's pulling out Nintendo Power magazines from the 90s and finding codes in there before these tombs would have even been conceived of, let alone built. And that's how he finds the entrance, is overlaying that with a chessboard drawing he did. The bracelet says like H4 to G3 or something.
In the end, he gets this transparency.
Out of a cereal box.
The bracelet gave him the coordinates, and the cereal box had one map, but then the Nintendo...
The cereal box had the overlay, like the transparent overlay. Yeah. And then Nintendo Power had the actual map. And then when you put them together with the chess move, it shows you his house to the
spot in Griffith Park, but it's so vague and it's just like a box around Griffith Park, which is like...
It's extremely...
100 acres. So, and then he just shows up at this hut in this little canyon.
Where we see Don McManus as the old rich guy who never gets a name, who is just the right mix of condescending to Sam because he views him as lesser than him because he's imaginary and Sam has an inferiority complex, but also cautious because he recognizes Sam is crazy.
Right.
And has a gun.
Or does he wield the gun in the hut?
He's definitely got it. I don't know if I think he's holding it. I do think he is holding it. But also Don McManus, he's quintessential that guy. You definitely know his face face, even if you don't think you do. First of all, he was Riggins Sr. on Friday Night Lights. He was Tim Riggins and Billy Riggins' estranged father.
Oh, okay.
Great show, Friday Night Lights. But also, he was Billy Wildman Geist on a little show called Justified, and that's our Justified crossover of the week.
Justified crossover of the week.
Nice. You got one before the end.
The 11th hour. Great casting, though, as old, weird, hippie, rich guy, kind of a jerk, a creep, but also a little likable.
It's a great performance. It's another monologue. It's the scene where if this was a real noir mystery and you meet the rich old man who explained the whole giant conspiracy, this works really well as that on the surface level. But of course, you and I don't believe that any of that is true because they have this weird belief that they're ascending and it's kind of like heaven, but it's not quite heaven, but they know they're going to die, but it's okay. It's this weird theology that they have.
They have 6 months supply of food and oxygen in their little tomb, and they're going to have delicious meals, a thing that Sam says earlier that is now repeated by this old rich guy, and sex and watch TV and old movies, like exactly what Sam would want to do if he,
That's true. My God.
That's all he wants to do is watch TV and old movies, have sex and eat food, which I mean, who among us, right?
Sure.
Far be it from me. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Relatable.
But even like the weird video phone he calls Sarah on doesn't feel like a real piece of technology.
Right.
Like everything else is very grounded. This is 2011 too, by the way, is where the movie takes place. It's an old school rotary phone, but with a screen on it too. That's a hint that maybe this conversation isn't real that he's having with Sarah at the end.
It's kind of like steampunky, but yeah, then he has this conversation, although it's not factually real, is emotionally the only sort of real moment. Like she's a real person and she admits her mistakes and goes, this is what happened to my life. I'm just going to deal with it. And she gives him some advice and he kind of hears it and he sheds a tear. And it's a nice emotional wrap up to the surface level story of a guy and a girl who hit it off and never got a chance to explore their romance.
And that's the end of the movie. Oh, wait, no. He has to go visit his nudist hippie neighbor. What's that parrot saying?
Man, the parrot is one of the codes in this movie that I haven't heard anybody crack. I saw some theories about it. I had a theory about it for a minute.
Let's set it up a little bit first.
Okay.
So his neighbor has this has this parrot. I got owls on the brain. His nudist neighbor has this parrot that from the first scene with his girlfriend, it's like, what is that parrot saying? And Sam's not bothered by it, weirdly. For a guy who's so concerned with hidden messages and codes, he brushes it off. He goes, I have no idea. I've never been able to figure it out. They throw around some guesses, but nothing seems quite right. And then he has sex with his neighbor. And when they're laying in bed, he asks her, what does the parrot say? And she goes, I don't know. I never figured it out. And he doesn't seem bothered by it still. So what that means, I've never quite been able to parse.
And I got caught up in this for a minute. I had my own theory. I thought he was saying all of them because he says this 3-syllable word or maybe 2 3-syllable words.
I hear Oliver clearest, but all of them is not a big stretch from Oliver.
And I thought it was like a clue for us that Sam is responsible for all the missing and dead people. That worked in my twisted mind. But then watching that end scene again, the theory I prefer is that Mitchell put that in there to be like, you don't have to solve all the mysteries. They're not all meaningful. And also just birds are mysterious. That's one of Mitchell's main points.
Do you think that's what Mitchell was saying with this movie is that birds they're crazy, man.
He's like, birds are weird, right? The owl lady kills you and the other bird keeps insisting on saying something that no one understands.
You've convinced me. Birds are weird. And yeah, it's an impossible mystery to decode because everyone hears it differently. And unless David Robert Mitchell comes out and says this is what the bird is saying, then there's no definitive answer.
And he very pointedly won't. He will not even help people. Like he got asked about this a lot and he doesn't want to engage, which makes sense because he wants you to engage with the movie. He doesn't want to explain any of it to anybody. But let me just add, unless anyone think that we're totally gone bonkers trying to insert all this meaning into this movie, I thought I was just over parsing the plot clues like we talked about, the dreams, the visions, the things that happen on screen that make you think, oh, is Sam the dog killer? The subtext, those lines that people are like, oh, that sounds like they're talking about Sam and they're hinting at something. There's a bunch of those things. But then I wasn't even realizing, and then later I came to realize, Mitchell put a lot of actual codes and ciphers on screen. There's people wearing t-shirts with little round emblems of animals and the first letters spell out, beware the dog killer.
The dog killer,
and
yeah.
There's Morse code along the bottom of the chalkboard menu of the cafe in the first scene. And there's other ciphers in later scenes and graffiti on walls and bathroom stalls that tell you to look at the bottom of the cafe menu and decipher the Morse code. And the Morse code takes you to a website where these 3-word phrases are encoded into geographical coordinates. And nobody, even on Reddit, has been able to really apparently get to the bottom of that. What 3 words is the name of the website? But the question of the movie, one of the questions of the physical codes and ciphers on the screen in this movie is supposedly to make you figure out the right combination of 3 words that takes you to a location that has some meaning. But the funny thing is, the more concrete the codes get, the less meaning they actually have. And I think that's part of Mitchell's point, is the subtext and the stuff going on in the movie is what's interesting interesting. And the codes spray painted on walls and written on chalkboards kind of don't mean anything, and they're meant to just distract you and waste your time.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely some wisdom in that. Along those same lines, right after the A24 intro, there's a picture of a unicorn, a tiger, a snake, and a lion, I think. So it's UTSL under the silver lake. Yeah, he clearly intentionally planted a lot of things. It is a movie that begs to be examined and analyzed to a large degree. We must sound fucking insane, though. I mean, there's no way we sound normal on this episode.
We both said to each other that, man, I'd love to meet David Robert Mitchell one day and talk to him about this movie. And I was like, if I ever met him, I'd just be like, you win, dude. You got me. Your movie defeated me entirely. I'm destroyed.
But this is one of my favorite movies of the 21st century so far, honestly. As bewildered and as confused and as unsure I am, I love this movie deeply.
That's the thing, is like, it's really great on screen, and the sort of, what do they call those virtual reality games that people started playing with movie marketing? Like the off-screen part of the movie is bonus, but we love the film that's on screen too. It's really a rewarding experience.
Oh, like, is it AR, augmented reality?
Something like that. I should know, because I was working in movie marketing at the time that started to be a thing, where you would put phone numbers, hide them in a TV spot, and people would call them and hear messages and go to websites.
Yeah, I played this video game. It seemed like a digital card game called Inscription that, as it got crazier and crazier, turned into an augmented reality experience that was really cool. That was kind of my first exposure to it on a large scale. But spoilers for the game Encryption. Sorry, guys. All right. Do you want to hear what these people have been up to?
Yeah, let's try to decode what's happened to them.
We touched on this a lot in the monologue, what's going on with David Robert Mitchell, but let's give you a little bit of a retrospective on his career as well. A Michigan native, he said his first two films there, the low-budget coming-of-age drama, The Myth of the American Sleepover, and then, of course, It Follows, became a smash hit, and basically was his blank check to make Under the Silver Lake. He has the heavily hyped The End of Oak Street coming out in August, which I'm very excited about. All I know is dinosaurs, Ewan McGregor, Anne Hathaway, but dinosaurs in like a real-world setting. Something happens, and they're there. It's described as a sci-fi survival film, so that's right up my alley.
It sounds fun, and it sounds like he's really going big budget with this one, because this is not something you can just do by walking around Silver Lake.
I think it's under 100 million, which is surprising, but I think he's also good at stretching a dollar.
I'm very excited for it.
And then he's doing, of course, They Follow, and Micah Monroe is coming back.
Oh, cool.
Which is super exciting. She was the lead of It Follows, and also Longlegs, which I quite enjoyed. So she's a bit of a scream queen, although she also was in Independence Day Resurgence, so we have covered her before.
Oh, okay.
Not in a movie we liked very much, but
sadly,
neither here nor there. But yeah, so he's got End of Oak Street coming out in August, and then It Follows. They have not announced a release date. I would guess probably not going to be ready for Halloween time. I think they just started filming it a couple weeks ago, so maybe summer 2027 is my best guess at this point. Andrew Garfield, he was 4 years removed from being Spider-Man by the time this was released, and he had, in between Spider-Man and this movie, he had tried to do some darker movies like Hacksaw Ridge and Silence, the great Martin Scorsese movie about Catholic priests in Japan.
Right, never saw it.
Good, really good movie. We could cover it too. It was a huge bomb. It was him and Adam Driver playing priests.
Interesting.
He's worked in mostly smaller movies like The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Tick, Tick, Boom, We Live in Time, and After the Hunt. Of course, with the large exception of Spider-Man No Way Home. I feel like it's not a big deal to reveal that he was in that movie now, as it's a few years old. I think everyone knows about that. He will next star in The Magic Faraway Tree and The Uprising in 2026. And then he's going back to his tech billionaire biopic roots. Of course, he played Eduardo Saverin in The Social Network, and now he's playing Sam Altman in 2027's Artificial.
Whoa.
Knowing what I know about Andrew Garfield and his politics and worldview, I do not think it will be a flattering portrayal. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, Sam Altman is
piece of shit
coming out as
allegedly
more and more of a villain. So I'm very interested to see how this film portrays him.
He was also the lead on a very good TV series that I believe I brought for Show and Tell years ago about a murder in the Mormon community called Under the Banner of Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Which was based on a true story. It was a Hulu show. He's quite good in it. I really enjoyed it. Also, Wyatt Russell was in that.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, good show. I think it was 7 or 8 episodes worth your time. Riley Keough. She started acting in 2010 in The Runaways. She's had roles in some heavy hitters: Magic Mike, Mad Max Fury Road, Dixieland, It Comes at Night with our edgelord himself, Mr. Joel, and Logan Lucky. So we have covered Riley Keough before as well. She had a weird and dark 2018. She starred in Welcome the Stranger, The House That Jack Built, a very fucked up serial killer movie starring Matt Dillon, directed by Lars von Trier, and Hold the Dark from our boy from Green Room, Jeremy Saulnier. Hold the Dark was probably his least successful movie critically. It's very one note. It lacks the humor that peppers the horrific violence in the rest of his movies. So it's just grim the entire time through, but it was well made and I liked it. But yeah, it's a tough watch and she's super crazy in it. Since then, she starred in Zola, The Devil All the Time, Jay Kelly, which I still have not seen, and the TV series Daisy Jones and the Six, and also the TV series Under the Bridge. She will next appear appear in Rosebush Pruning, Out of This World, and Butterfly Jam, all set to be released this year.
Yeah, she feels like she's in a very solid period of her career.
Yeah, she's reliable, keeps popping up in critically acclaimed mid-budget kind of fare. I'm never sad to see her in a movie. I always think she brings it.
Yeah, I like her too.
Do you have any idea what we're covering next?
No, I feel like I should have asked you by this point.
You didn't check the list?
I didn't check the list. I didn't get ahead of the watching, but now's the time to find out.
This is one that's been requested a couple times, but it's also one I've been hesitant to do because it's impossible to watch it, essentially. It's one of those films that's lost to time unless you can, or did they just do it? I think they might have done a Blu-ray release for it. Please hold. Okay, you can finally buy this movie on physical media, but it is not streaming anywhere. It is Kathryn Bigelow's 1995 futuristic thriller Strange Days.
I have heard about this movie. I think I've seen part of it once.
Ralph Fiennes, Tom Sizemore.
This is another LA set movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but like a dystopian future LA, so I don't know how true to life it's going to be.
I dig that.
Always wanted to see this movie. I never got around to it, and like I said, it's been tough to see for a while. I will get into the reasons why it is not streaming anywhere when we do the episode, but pretty excited for this one. We have not covered Kathryn Bigelow yet. This was also written by James Cameron, who was Kathryn Bigelow's husband at the time.
Okay.
So it's got quite a pedigree. She is a director I'm quite fond of, so this has been something I've been meaning to check off my list. So might as well do an episode at the same time.
Sounds great. Looking forward to The Strange Days.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice if they let you. If they don't, then no fault of yours.
No, can't be blamed.
You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky. We are Blast Zone Pod. You can email us, blastzonepod@gmail.com, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, movie suggestions, or just want to talk about movies. We love hearing from you.
Yeah, it's great.
And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.